My friends, I come before you today with a message of hope, a message of transformation, a message of divine appointment. There is a moment in every life when the winds shift, when the doors that were once closed begin to open, when the burdens we have carried are lifted by hands greater than our own. If you are hearing this, if these words have reached your heart, know this: God is about to change your life. Not by accident, not by chance, but by His divine plan. Too many of us spend our days seeking validation, longing to be chosen, yearning to be loved by those who have no intention of making room for us in their lives. But I tell you, child of God, if someone wants you in their life, they will make it known. You will not have to beg for a seat at their table. You will not have to chase after their affection. You will not have to prove your worth, because your worth was decided long ago by the one who formed you in your mother's womb. Listen to me, God does not intend for you to live in the shadows of rejection. He is calling you to rise up, to stand firm, to walk boldly into the life He has prepared for you. He is cutting away the people who cannot go where He is taking you. He is removing distractions, breaking chains, and clearing your path. So let go of those who refuse to see your value. Stop knocking on doors that were never meant to open for you. Turn your eyes to the one who has already called you by name, the one who has set a place for you at His table, the one who has written your story with love, with grace, with a purpose far greater than you can imagine. When you see this, when you hear this, when your spirit stirs within you, know that God is working. Your season of uncertainty is ending. Your season of breakthrough is here, and those who are meant to be in your life will not have to be convinced. They will be sent by God Himself. Walk forward in faith, walk forward in confidence, walk forward knowing that the best is yet to come. God's timing is perfect, and there are moments in life that serve as divine appointments, moments that are orchestrated by His hand to bring about a change in your life. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own plans, our own timelines, and our own desires that we forget that God sees the big picture. He knows the path ahead of us, and He works in ways that we cannot fully comprehend. But if we stop for a moment and reflect on our journey, we'll realize that God's timing has been evident all along, shaping our lives in ways we never imagined. Perhaps you've been waiting for a breakthrough. Perhaps you've been praying for something, seeking a change in your circumstances, or hoping for a transformation in your relationships. You've been asking, knocking, seeking, and yet the door seems to remain closed. The situation feels stagnant, as though nothing is moving forward. But my friends, I want to tell you today, God's timing is not bound by the limitations of this world. It does not follow the constraints of our clocks or calendars. What may seem like a delay is often God's perfect timing in action. Think about the times when you felt that God was silent. You prayed fervently, asking for clarity, for direction, for answers. Yet the response seemed absent. But during those moments, what you didn't realize was that God was working behind the scenes. He was preparing you, shaping you, refining your character and your heart. The waiting time is not wasted time. It is in the waiting that God often does His deepest work in our lives. It's easy to become frustrated when things don't happen on our timeline. We want things now, we want answers now, we want solutions right away. But God, in His infinite wisdom, understands that we are not always ready for the things we desire. His timing takes into account our readiness, our growth, our ability to handle the blessings He is preparing for us. When you see a delay, don't view it as a denial. Sometimes the thing you are waiting for is not a no from God, but rather a not yet. God's timing is perfect, and He knows exactly when to bring about the changes in your life that will best serve His plan for you. Sometimes the waiting period is simply to prepare you for what's to come. You are being molded and strengthened in ways that you may not fully understand now, but in time you will see the wisdom in it. Consider the story of Abraham. God promised him that he would be the father of many nations, yet for years Abraham and Sarah had no children. They waited and they waited. They grew older, and it seemed like the promise would never come to fruition. But God had a perfect plan in mind. His timing was not the same as Abraham's. It wasn't until Abraham was nearly 100 years old that the promise of a son was fulfilled. And when Isaac was born, the fulfillment of God's promise was not just for Abraham and Sarah, but for the generations that followed. God's timing was perfect, even when it seemed impossible. Your life is no different. If God has promised you something, if He has called you to a purpose, then His timing will be perfect in bringing that to pass. There may be moments when you wonder if you heard Him right, when you question if He truly has a plan for you. But remember that God's timeline does not always align with our expectations. What seems like a delay may be His way of preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. During this waiting period, you are being refined. Like gold that is purified in fire, your faith is being tested and strengthened. The hardships, the unanswered prayers, and the seasons of waiting are not meant to break you. They are meant to build you up. Through each trial, through each season of waiting, God is equipping you for the greater things He has in store. You may not see the full picture now, but in time you will look back and realize how perfectly God's hand has guided you through every step of the journey. There are moments when God will open doors at exactly the right time, when you are ready, when the situation is right, and when you are positioned to walk through them with faith and confidence. And when that moment comes, you will understand why it had to be in His perfect timing. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Trust in His plan, trust in His timing, and know that the moment you've been waiting for is drawing near. If you are facing a season of waiting, hold fast to this truth: God is not late. He has not forgotten you. He is not distant. He is working in ways you cannot see, preparing you for the breakthrough that is coming. When that moment arrives, it will be clear to you that God's timing was, and always will be, perfect. So keep trusting, keep praying, and keep believing, for the best is yet to come. There's a powerful truth that many of us struggle to accept, yet it is essential to our peace and emotional well-being. If someone truly wants you in their life, they will make it known. It's not something that requires convincing, persuading, or constant effort on your part. When someone values you, when they see your worth, they will naturally make room for you in their world. Too often, we find ourselves caught in a cycle of trying to prove our importance to others, chasing after relationships that seem out of reach, striving to earn the approval of those who never truly see us. But this pursuit, this exhausting effort to gain acceptance from others, is not the way God intended for us to live. Think about it for a moment. How often do we find ourselves knocking on doors that remain firmly closed, hoping that one day someone will see what we bring to the table? We put in the time, we put in the energy, we do everything we think we need to do to prove our worth, and all the while we overlook the fact that true connection is never meant to be forced. It is meant to be built on mutual respect, understanding, and a genuine desire to be present in each other's lives. If someone truly values you, there will be no need to chase after them. They will make it clear that they want you there, and they will meet you halfway. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we must constantly earn our place, especially when we have a strong desire to be loved and accepted. But that desire often leads us to invest in relationships that don't bring us peace. We may find ourselves seeking the approval of people who do not have the capacity to appreciate us for who we are, people who will never understand or value what we bring into their lives. And the more we chase after these relationships, the more we drain ourselves, the more we diminish our own self-worth, and the more we convince ourselves that we are not enough unless we have their acceptance. But this is not the truth. The truth is that you are enough just as you are. Your worth is not determined by the people who come and go in your life. It's not dependent on their approval or acknowledgement. You were created with a purpose, and the right people will see that purpose in you without you having to try to convince them. They will recognize the value in you, and they will make sure you know that you belong in their life. The struggle to gain acceptance often comes from a place of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of not being valued. It's a fear that makes us overlook the importance of self-love and personal boundaries. We begin to believe that if we just do a little more, if we just try a little harder, if we just sacrifice a little more, then maybe, just maybe, the door will open for us. But this kind of thinking sets us up for disappointment. It creates a cycle where we are continually seeking validation from others, but never truly feeling fulfilled because we are chasing something that isn't meant for us. The truth is that God has a way of removing the wrong people from our lives in order to make space for the right ones. This doesn't always mean that the people we want in our lives are bad people, but rather that they are not the ones who are meant to walk with us on the journey ahead. And sometimes the hardest lesson to learn is to let go of those who are not willing to make room for us in their lives. Letting go can be painful, especially when we are still holding on to the hope that things will change, that someone will come around and finally see our worth. But we must trust that if they truly wanted us in their lives, they would not have left us wondering, unsure of where we stand. God's plan for you is much bigger than the approval of any one person. If you are constantly fighting for a place in someone else's world, you are missing out on the beautiful relationships and connections that God has designed for you. You are worthy of love, respect, and understanding. You are worthy of people who will not hesitate to show up for you, who will not keep you guessing, who will see you for who you truly are and will make sure you know that you belong. If someone wants you in their life, they will not leave you wondering. They will show up, they will invest in you, and they will honor your time, your heart, and your presence. They will not leave you in a state of doubt or confusion. They will make room for you because they know that you are someone worth having around. You don't have to fight for a seat at their table because they've already set one for you. So let go of the idea that you need to earn your place. Let go of the belief that you have to work harder to be loved, to be valued, or to be wanted. Know your worth, rest in the truth that you are enough, and trust that the right people will show up when the time is right. You don't have to chase after anyone. God is bringing the right people into your life who will choose you, who will cherish you, and who will make sure you know that you are meant to be a part of their world. Your worth is already established, and this truth is vital to embrace. Too often we look for our value in the eyes of others, measuring our self-worth based on how we are perceived, how we are treated, and what we can offer. We live in a world that tells us we must achieve, succeed, or be constantly performing in order to prove our value. But the reality is, your worth is not determined by external validation or accomplishments. It was decided long ago, long before you even took your first breath. You are valuable not because of what you do or what others think of you, but because of who you are, a creation of a loving and purposeful God. When we seek our worth in others, we set ourselves up for disappointment. People are fickle, and their views can change in an instant. One day they may praise us for something we've accomplished, and the next they may overlook us entirely. If your sense of value is based solely on what others think or say, you will find yourself constantly striving for affirmation that never truly satisfies. This endless chase can leave you feeling exhausted, unfulfilled, and insecure. It's a cycle that can trap you in a place where you are always trying to measure up to someone else's standards, only to find that their expectations are constantly shifting, and no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. But there is good news in this. You don't need to chase after the approval of others, because your worth is already set. You were made in the image of God, and that is the foundation of your value. Before you did anything to prove yourself, before you had any accomplishments to list, God looked at you and said, "You are good." He formed you, shaped you, and gave you a unique purpose that is far beyond the limitations of this world's standard. Your worth was never in question, it was secured at the moment of your creation. The value of something is determined by the one who created it, and when God made you, he declared that you were worth everything to him. This realization should be freeing. When you truly understand that your worth is not dependent on your performance, you can stop striving for things that only temporarily fill the void. The external markers of success, like accolades, popularity, or the approval of others, are fleeting and ultimately hollow. They can't define who you truly are because they don't touch the core of your being. You are worthy because you were made in the image of the Creator, and nothing can ever take that away. One of the most powerful things you can do is to stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison only leads to self-doubt and insecurity. It tricks you into thinking that your worth is based on how you stack up against those around you. But comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your peace, and your confidence. You don't need to be like anyone else to be valuable. You are unique, and your value is found in the specific way you were designed. Embrace who you are without apology. The world needs your authenticity, your individual contribution, and your perspective. When you stop looking to others for validation, you can begin to walk in the confidence that your worth is already secure. God also calls us to love ourselves, not in a self-centered or prideful way, but in a healthy understanding of who we are in him. When you know your worth, you treat yourself with the respect, love, and care that you deserve. You set boundaries that protect your peace and well-being. You make choices that align with your purpose and values, because you know you are worthy of the best that life has to offer. When you realize that you are enough, you stop tolerating situations, relationships, or behaviors that do not honor your worth. You begin to live with a deeper sense of self-respect, and that radiates to everyone around you. Your worth is not something that can be earned, lost, or diminished by the actions of others. It is not contingent on how well you perform, how successful you are, or how others perceive you. The Creator of the universe has already determined that you are valuable. That truth is not based on how the world sees you, but on how God sees you, and he sees you as his beloved child, deserving of love, grace, and every good thing. There will be times in life when others may not see your value. You may experience rejection, disappointment, or the sting of being overlooked. But remember, those things do not diminish your worth. They simply reveal that the people who didn't see your value were not meant to be a part of your journey. Your worth remains unchanged, no matter how others treat you. You are still deeply loved, cherished, and honored by the one who created you. Embrace this truth and let it transform the way you live. Stop seeking approval from the outside and start living from the inside out, knowing that your value is already established. You are enough. You were always enough, and no matter what you face, no matter what others say or do, your worth will never change. It is rooted in the eternal love of the one who created you, and that love will never fail. God's plan for your life is filled with purpose. And sometimes that means he must remove people from your life to make room for the right ones. This process can be painful and confusing, especially when the people who are removed from your life were once significant to you. But trust that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating the events of your life for your good and for his glory. His wisdom far exceeds ours, and his understanding of what is best for you is perfect, even when we can't see it at the time. We often struggle with letting go of people who no longer serve a positive role in our lives. We cling to the past, to relationships that have become strained, unfulfilling, or toxic, because we fear the emptiness that might follow. We wonder if we will be alone, if we will ever find true connection again, or if the people we are letting go of were the ones who would always be a part of our lives. But in letting go, we make space for something greater, something that aligns with God's purpose for us. This process is not about casting people aside recklessly or without compassion. God doesn't want us to be cold-hearted or indifferent toward others. But there comes a point when you must ask yourself, are these people helping me grow? Are they encouraging me in my walk with God? Are they leading me toward the life He has prepared for me, or are they holding me back? When the answer is that someone is holding you back, even unintentionally, it may be time to trust God's wisdom in removing them from your life. It can be difficult to understand why God removes certain people, especially when they were once close to you. But God's perspective is not limited by the constraints of time and space. He knows where He is leading you and the relationships that will help you fulfill the destiny He has for you. If someone is no longer meant to walk beside you on this journey, trust that God is making a way for new people to enter your life, people who will encourage you, support you, and walk with you toward your purpose. These new relationships will be more in alignment with the path God has for you, and they will help you grow in ways that the previous relationships could not. We often have a tendency to hold on tightly to what we know, even if it's not good for us. We may have deep emotional attachments, memories of good times, and a fear of change. But sometimes, in order for us to move forward, God must remove the distractions and hindrances that we are unwilling to let go of on our own. This might be painful in the moment, but it is part of His greater plan for your life. As He removes people or situations that no longer serve you, He is creating the space for something better, relationships that will push you closer to your calling, friendships that will support your growth, and connections that will reflect His love and purpose. In some cases, the removal is not about the other person at all, but rather about your own personal growth. There are times when God needs you to step away from relationships that are holding you in a place of emotional or spiritual stagnation. Sometimes the people we associate with are not necessarily bad, but their influence on our lives might be preventing us from becoming the people God is calling us to be. It's easy to get comfortable in familiar relationships, but comfort does not always lead to growth. God, in His perfect love, knows that you need to move forward, and He lovingly clears the path, even if it means removing people who are holding you back from the future He has for you. When we trust in God's plan, we can take comfort in knowing that His decisions for our lives are for our ultimate good. He is not removing people to punish us, but to prepare us for something greater. We may not understand the reasons behind it in the moment, but as we look back, we often see that the removal of those people opened up opportunities for deeper relationships, greater spiritual growth, and a clearer sense of purpose. Trusting in God's timing and plan means acknowledging that His ways are higher than ours, and that He knows exactly what we need and when we need it. It's also important to remember that God does not want us to be isolated. While He may remove people who are not aligned with His plan for our lives, He is simultaneously preparing new people to enter your life, people who will help you, encourage you, and walk with you toward the future He has in store. God's plan for community is one of connection, love, and mutual support. He does not want us to journey through life alone, but He wants to surround us with people who will lift us up, challenge us to grow, and point us back to Him when we lose our way. When God removes people from your life, He is not leaving you empty. He is making room for what He has promised you. Trust in His wisdom, His timing, and His love for you. Let go of the fear of losing relationships, and instead, open your heart to the new opportunities, connections, and growth that God is bringing your way. As painful as the removal may seem in the moment, remember that God's plans for you are always good, and His ways will always lead you to a future filled with hope, peace, and purpose. When you trust in God's plan, you can walk through life with faith, not fear. This kind of trust is not about blind optimism or a hope that things will work out without effort. It's about resting in the knowledge that God's hand is guiding you every step of the way, even when circumstances seem uncertain. Too often, fear dictates our decisions, our actions, and even our thoughts. We fear the unknown, we fear failure, we fear rejection, and we fear being vulnerable. But when we trust in God's plan, we acknowledge that these fears don't have the final say. Instead, God's promises stand firm, and He will see us through the challenges we face. Fear is a powerful emotion, and it can prevent us from stepping into the life God has for us. It can make us second, guess ourselves, hold us back from taking risks, and cause us to doubt God's provision. Fear can cause us to shrink back from our calling and make us hesitate when it's time to move forward. However, fear cannot stand in the way of God's will for our lives when we choose to place our trust in Him. Trust in God is the antidote to fear. It's the belief that no matter what we face, God is already there, ahead of us, preparing the way. Trusting in God's plan means recognizing that He sees the bigger picture. We only see what's right in front of us, but God sees the end from the beginning. His perspective is not limited by time or space. He knows what is best for us, even when it doesn't make sense in the moment. How often have we prayed for something, only to see our request go unanswered, or to see doors closed that we thought should be open? In those moments, it's easy to feel disappointed or confused. We might wonder why things aren't going as we planned, or why we seem to be facing more challenges than we can handle. But God's plan is always better than our own, even when it doesn't look like it in the immediate moment. There will be times when things are unclear, and we don't understand why certain things happen. But trusting in God's plan means letting go of the need for complete understanding and leaning into faith. Faith says, even though I don't understand, I trust you, Lord. It means walking by faith and not by sight, holding on to God's promises even when everything around us seems uncertain. When we trust in God's plan, we can have peace in the middle of the storm because we know that He is with us. He is not surprised by our struggles, nor is He caught off guard by the challenges we face. He is faithful to bring us through every trial, and His plan will always prevail. One of the most powerful things about trusting in God's plan is that it removes the need for control. So much of our fear comes from the desire to control our circumstances. We want to know the outcome, we want to be prepared, and we want to ensure that everything goes the way we think it should. But trust means surrender. It means letting go of the illusion that we can control everything and allowing God to take the lead. When we trust God, we release the weight of trying to manipulate situations or worry about the future. We place our lives in His hands, knowing that He will guide us through the twists and turns of life. Trusting in God's plan also frees us from the pressure of having to make every decision perfectly. So often, we find ourselves paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice. We worry that one mistake will ruin everything, or that we'll miss out on the opportunity we've been praying for. But trusting in God's plan means understanding that He can work all things together for our good, even when we don't have it all figured out. His grace is sufficient, and He will lead us in the right direction, even when we feel uncertain or afraid. When we trust Him, we allow Him to work in us and through us, even in the midst of our mistakes and shortcomings. There is a certain peace that comes with trusting in God's plan. It doesn't mean that life will be free from pain or challenges, but it does mean that we have a peace that transcends understanding. We know that God is in control, and we can rest in the fact that He will never leave us or forsake us. Trusting in God's plan means that, no matter what happens, we can hold on to the truth that He is good, and He is working for our good. When you trust in God, you let go of fear and embrace the assurance that He has a purpose for your life. You stop worrying about the things you can't control and begin to live in the freedom of His sovereignty. Fear may still try to creep in, but you can stand firm in your trust in God, knowing that He is greater than any obstacle you may face. His love is constant and His plans are always for your benefit. So, instead of letting fear rule your life, choose to trust in the One who holds the future. Let His peace guard your heart and walk forward in confidence, knowing that His plan is far greater than anything you could ever imagine. When someone truly wants you in their life, they will make it known. This is a simple yet profound truth that can transform the way we approach relationships. Too often, we find ourselves chasing after people who don't seem to have the same level of interest or commitment in us. We may try to earn their affection, approval, or attention, believing that if we just try hard enough, they will eventually see our worth. But in reality, when someone truly wants you in their life, they won't leave you questioning your place. They will show you through their actions, words, and commitment that you belong there. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that love, friendship, or acceptance must be fought for, that it's something we have to earn. But the truth is that genuine connections are built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared desire to be part of one another's lives. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, should not feel like a constant battle to prove your worth. If you find yourself in a situation where you are always having to convince someone of your value, it's a sign that the relationship may not be as fulfilling or healthy as it should be. When someone values you, you won't have to chase after them. They will show up for you not out of obligation or guilt, but because they want to. Their actions will match their words, and there will be a consistency in how they treat you. They will make time for you not because they feel they have to, but because they genuinely care and want to be with you. This consistency is a key indicator of someone's true feelings. If someone truly wants you in their life, they won't leave you hanging or make you second. Guess where you stand. They will be clear about their intentions and will invest in the relationship in meaningful ways. This does not mean that relationships are always smooth sailing, or that there won't be challenges along the way. Every relationship, no matter how strong, will encounter moments of disagreement, conflict, or distance. However, the difference lies in how those situations are handled. When someone truly wants you in their life, they will make the effort to work through difficulties, to communicate openly, and to show you that the relationship is worth fighting for. They will not shy away from hard conversations or uncomfortable moments, but will face them with the intention of resolving issues and strengthening the bond between you. It's also important to remember that wanting someone in your life isn't just about the big moments or grand gestures. It's in the small, everyday things, the texts to check in, the simple acts of kindness, the willingness to be present when you need them most. These small but meaningful actions often speak louder than words. If someone truly wants you in their life, they won't make you feel like an afterthought. You will be a priority, not just when it's convenient for them, but consistently, even in the midst of their own busy life. The true measure of someone's desire to have you in their life is seen in how they make time for you, how they make you feel valued, and how they choose to be there for you, no matter the circumstances. On the other hand, if you are constantly left wondering about someone's feelings or place in their life, it's crucial to evaluate the relationship. Sometimes we hold on to relationships out of fear or hope, fear of being alone, or hope that things will change. But if you find yourself repeatedly questioning your role in someone's life, it's a sign that you may not be getting the clarity or commitment you deserve. True love, friendship, and acceptance are never meant to be uncertain. They should feel like a safe place, a relationship where both parties are equally invested and both feel seen and heard. One of the most freeing things you can do is to stop chasing people who aren't willing to invest in you. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if we just try harder, someone will eventually come around, but this mindset often leads to frustration and heartache. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see your worth, who make the effort to keep you in their lives, and who don't leave you questioning your place or your importance. When someone truly wants you in their life, they will make it clear, and you won't have to wonder where you stand. This doesn't mean that you should expect perfection from others, nor does it mean that every relationship will be without flaws. But it does mean that the foundation of the relationship should be built on mutual respect and a genuine desire to be together. You shouldn't have to fight for a place in someone's heart. You are worthy of relationships where you feel loved, accepted, and appreciated, not just when it's convenient for the other person, but consistently. In the end, if someone truly wants you in their life, they will make sure you know it. You won't be left questioning their commitment or wondering if you are important to them. They will show up, be present, and make you feel like a priority, not an option. And when you stop chasing after people who don't value you, you create the space for the right people to enter your life. People who will choose to be there not out of obligation, but because they see you for who you are and want to be a part of your journey. As you move forward in life, remember this: you are worthy of being loved and valued for who you truly are. You don't have to chase after anyone who doesn't see your worth. When someone genuinely wants you in their life, they will make it clear through their actions and commitment. Trust that the right people will come into your life at the right time, and they will invest in you just as you should in them. So don't settle for relationships that leave you questioning your place, your value, or your importance. Let go of the fear of being alone or of losing out, and trust that the relationships that matter will find their way to you. The ones who truly want you in their life will come forward with consistency, love, and genuine care. Surround yourself with those who show up, who make you a priority, and who walk alongside you in love and truth. And remember, the most important relationship of all is the one you have with yourself and with God, knowing that He has a perfect plan for your life. Keep moving forward with confidence, knowing that when you trust the process and let go of what no longer serves you, you make space for those who truly want to walk with you on your journey.